Greetings and welcome to the Mount Rushmore podcast. My name is Jeff, and I'm joined as always by my good friends Richard.
Hello.
And Michael.
Howdy.
Richard and Michael, for 249 episodes, have been debating the Mount Rushmore of a variety of topics, and they usually debate the most ubiquitous aspects and which one or ones belong on the Mount Rushmore. And for our 250th episode, we're not doing a bottle episode. We're not going to do the Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores of Mount Rushmores. We're going to honor the word 250 in maybe a very esoteric way. A simple Google search revealed to us that the SMTP server response 250 simply means that everything went well and your message, as in an email message, was delivered to the recipient server. So we're going to talk about the Mount Rushmore of email. Oh my God. You guys ready for this?
Yeah, I emailed you my list earlier.
Oh, snap. I didn't. I didn't get. Let me ask you guys, have you always had email your whole life? I mean, I know email has been around our whole lives, but was it available to you your whole lives?
No, I didn't have it until college.
Same here. I can still remember my first email address was my college MWINFI, like my UCSB email address was my,
Is that right?
Now it's long lost to history, but that was 1996. So yeah, I didn't really have a computer before then. And I really didn't even have a computer in college. It was just I went to down to the computer lab or went to the little free kiosks or whatever that they had at the USEN and beep, bop, boop, wrote out emails to one person.
I had it. I don't think I even had a typewriter through college. I think my last year I typed a paper, my final paper that I had to turn in. And I certainly didn't have a computer. And I don't think I got email until I was maybe 30 years old or something like that. And I remember after sending an email to a friend, I called him to ask, hey, did you get my email? Because it was so novel. I wanted to talk to him about the email. But, I think considering how electronic media has been evolved throughout the years, and the idea of sending a message electronically is no longer restrained to just an email. And considering how individuals have grown their presence in the world through electronic broadcasting, email suddenly also seems so novel and so quaint. It almost feels like that little chalkboard that Laura Ingalls Wilder wrote on.
Right.
I'd be interested in hearing your perspectives as we go through the Mount Rushmore of email. Why don't we start with Richard?
All right. My first choice is one that I think is a pretty ubiquitous one. It is the reply all hell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So this is what happens when a mass email is sent out and then someone decides to reply to that and hits reply all instead of just reply. Mm-hmm. And then it becomes just this flurry of emails. You get the people emailing back saying, hey, why am I still on this chain? Yeah. But they hit reply all, so they're just making it worse.
Yeah.
It's just so many different parameters where the whole thing can just get sucked into just shittiness.
Do you feel like there is the opposite of the paranoia of the CYA? I got to cover my ass and everybody was on this original thing? Because that's the way my group is at Disney. Is you do not take somebody off that thing because they're just going to come back and chew you in the ass. Anyway,
well, it's one thing if it's that. It's another thing if you're just replying to that one person with something that's only relevant to the person who originally sent the email message. Yeah. There's no need to reply. And this is especially true when it's an email that's going out to all employees in the company.
Yeah.
Which of course opens up the whole can of worms of why are you emailing it in a way so that somebody could then reply all to everybody. Mm-hmm. The whole thing's kind of a mess. But yeah, I've been caught in it a couple of times. I'm sure our listeners have as well. And it's just a very uncomfortable and awkward situation.
Yeah. Email has that thing that text doesn't, and that's the CC line too. So those people, at least those people, should be gone off that next round of replies, because they were just carboned on there. What were you gonna say, Michael?
I do appreciate the person that tries to retrieve the email back, tries to claw it back from being sent out. It's, now they have like that technology, which is just like, oh, this person wants to unsend this thing that he sent out to everyone, or unsend this thing. And I keep thinking like, man, the genie's out of the bottle. What are you trying?
Yeah.
What are you trying to recover? It's no way. And I keep thinking like, I'm holding on to this, even though I might not have the ability to.
Yeah. The recall feature.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the name of it.
Is the dumbest feature in all of email, because it's just half the people have already read the email by the time you're doing it. Another 25% have some weird, off-brand version of Outlook so that the recall feature doesn't actually work.
Yeah.
Or they're like in Hotmail or God knows what. And then sometimes you just got to give up the ghost, man. You just got to, it's basically recall feature is you admitting, hey guys, I fucked up and let's pretend this never happened.
It seems like the electronic version of unnecessary censorship, because it just makes the bleep, makes the word that was bleeped sound like it was even more inflammatory.
Right.
It's like, whatever. Nobody would have paid attention unless you recalled it in the dark shadows of the server. The reply all, I think, is interesting too, because it does seem like the first trumpet, the first big old blast. Like I just heard an interview with Todd Rundgren on the Left Sets podcast, and there's a guy who has been involved in music for a long time, but been involved in technology as nearly his entire life. And he talks about spending most of his time in computing in the point-to-point communication world, where you were just one node connecting to another node out there on the pre-internet or pre-web internet. And now everything's just on a blast. Now the person-to-person, the one-to-one-ness of it is just entirely gone, because everything is just a blast now. It seems like most platforms are about communicating to as many people as possible, replying all to the world. Yeah. Okay, Winfield, what do you got?
My first choice is when Ethan Hunt in the 1996 movie Mission Impossible sent out emails to Job emails as Job to max@job3:14. And how quaint it was that is just what they thought email was, how email addresses looked like. And how like this little email, like he presses the button, writes the message, and it just kind of folds itself up into a nice envelope and animates its way like down the rabbit hole or wherever it goes into like the internet. And everyone in 1996 was like, that is what email looks like. And that is what it is. Yeah. And I love how precious it is for a movie that's about like high tech spying and, like fake faces and these kind of jury rigs and, spider wires that you're swinging on gracefully. And just there's a part where he just email in movies, prior probably to maybe The Matrix, or maybe even You've Got Mail is probably the most accurate depiction of emails. I don't know because I've never seen it, but I'm just guessing. But like there was a time when just like email was the most novel thing. If everyone just kind of started doing it right around the same time, it was used by businesses and kind of maybe universities. And then suddenly everybody was sending an email, and the idea that they had to try to make it look like writing a real letter, or that thing like it's very strange to watch that very specific scene in a movie that is all about like these high-tech spies and uses like Usenet to look up a Bible verse. And it's just like, really? This is This is what we got. And of course, this is me, like you brought up at the beginning of the show. I didn't have an email address then. I was in high school. This was actually the one time that I ditched high school was to go see this movie with a friend. And it was like, okay, I didn't realize, till 4 months later, 6 months later in college, it was like, oh yeah, email's nothing like this.
Yeah. Did you think, oh, do I also get a gun too? Because it's predicting so many things. That I think I would geek out over a whole episode of user interfaces in movies and how yes they are and how fake they are. And it's funny because there's so many fake things that you're seeing. You just don't happen to load a certain cartridge into a certain gun and not know that those are fake too, or that's not what the checkpoint looks like in West Berlin. There's all this other fake shit happening. But there was a meme going around with this is not email, but remember when Kelly Rowland texted her man via Microsoft Excel and was fuming he didn't text her back? The music video directors show a close-up of a screen on her Nokia cell phone, which shows obviously a spreadsheet, and the art director has typed in, "Where you at? Holla when you get this." So how novel. So that's a pretty fun. That was the first for Michael. We've heard the first for Richard. What's your second, Richard?
All right. So my second one is when someone sends you an email and then calls you within 5 to 10 minutes to ask you, did you get this email?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm sorry that I didn't drop everything that I had to do so I could reply to your email within the time frame that works for you.
Yeah.
And I am somebody who because I will naturally forget to respond to emails, I have to fight that by basically trying to drop everything that I do. And I try to respond to an email pretty much as soon as I receive it, just to get it off of my list of things to do. And like I said, so I don't forget about sending a reply and then it's 2 hours later and a person is justified in it. But you know what? How many times does an email actually fail to get to somebody? Basically never. It's not like this is some insanely risky strategy to send an email and you're just hoping that somehow it makes it through all of the digital hoops that it needs to get to somebody. If you hit send, they're going to get it, and you can be pretty confident that they're going to see it. So you don't need to then call them 5 minutes later and just confirm, unless you're Jeff Hopkins 25 years ago and you just wanted to see if your friend actually got it, in which case I understand. But
did Balthazar, my carrier pigeon, make it to your encampment, sir?
Yes. I was on my megaphone trying to shout to you.
Well, do you think there's real world? For me, I totally understand what you're saying. For me, the real world, the things in the real world that bump up against that are that people now have text message expectations for all of electronic communication. Like, didn't this thing just pop up in your pocket and make a bleep bloop noise and go up right in front of your heads up display that you have on your Google Glass?
Right.
No, it's an email. It's with 1,000 emails, and that's another thing. It's like the spam filter, it's just buried now it's like one leaf at the bottom of a lawn filled after fall has hit. So I think that's why people follow up like that. But yeah, come on. We know that it's there. It went into the barrel. We know that it's there. It did not get there.
This is an somewhat related one. I think it's both in the world of phone calls and emails. I also appreciate when I get an email or a text from somebody asking if they can call me. It's like, if I have the time to respond to your email, I have the time to talk to you. And if I don't have the time, guess what? I'm not going to pick up the phone, and you can just leave a message and I will get back to you. We don't need to complicate the situation, guys. Just
Yeah.
make it simple.
Yeah. Okay, Winfield, what's your second choice?
My second choice is just Gmail and a decade of of kickball memories stored in just Gmail conversations and GChat, and this like kind of archive of something that I can get back to at any time and just look for and search and find instantly without having to like pull my hair out. Um, I first signed up for Gmail in 2004, like right when it was first started. I had to get like invited to it by somebody else, which was very strange to think of. It was like this, not private, but it felt very exclusive, even though everybody has it or had it or whatever. But by the time 2005 rolled along and I started playing kickball, and shortly after, this thing just dominated my life for like a decade. Everything through kickball was like run through it. Conversations were had nonstop throughout the day with everybody through like GChat for like 10 years straight until things started getting like slowly migrated into like conversations that were happening on Facebook. And then Facebook became as horrible as it is now. And it's weird how Gmail was this thing that was so dominant, and email or personal email was so dominant for so long. And I'm barely on it now.
Yeah.
It is a thing that like used to be the first thing that I logged into every day, and would start talking about just chatting with my friends through the chat client, or like emailing some sort of kickball business, or emailing about a kickball game, or some sort of rules discussion, or some sort of like board of directors nonsense. And then all of a sudden it just kind of like, it just dried up. And like this, I don't know. I wonder if the people at Gmail just started noticing that happening as like Facebook kind of Facebook groups started taking over as like this focal point where people just spent all their time. I wonder if there's going to be a kind of a switch back at some point.
Yeah. So was it social media that killed that functionality of email that you weren't looking for that message from that person because of social media? Is that what it is?
Maybe. I mean, it's funny because I think there's like, there's two aspects of social media. There's the things where you're like connecting with people that you normally wouldn't talk to, and you're like reading news and finding about current events. And then there's like the Facebook world where you're just kind of looking at other people's pictures and talking to them in different avenues that way publicly. But like Gmail at least had some aspect of it still was a private conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that might be the thing, that at some point everyone just started being public with all of these conversations, and it was still like, maybe that's what is precious to me a little bit, something like that.
One thing I think might have not have been about application, but location, when everything was all of a sudden on your iPhone. For me, Messenger, text, even the iOS, I'm an iOS user, even the interface of iOS removes the Chrome associated with the application with it. So like, yes, you can get almost everything now just looks like a blank field where you can just type in something. So whether you're talking to me on Facebook or Messenger or email, it all kind of starts to look the same. So I wonder if that was the thing is less about sitting down at your PC and actually kind of viewing it mobily.
That probably feels pretty accurate. I think Gmail was very effective and special in a way because of like how it threaded emails. Like it wasn't just you got a single email that popped up and all of a sudden you had to keep 100 emails. It's like, okay, here's this one thing that has this full day's conversation or whatever it was, or GChat was like that in the same way. It turned all email into a big, one long chat, one long text threads almost. It was easy to just scroll back through the one thing. But yeah, I can't remember the last time I just opened Gmail on my phone to send an email. It just doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, for me, Gmail does a pretty good job of this, but for me, it's kind of like looking for a letter. Like if I was to look for, the only time I look through the mail for personal correspondence is around a holiday, like or like my birthday or something. That's about the only time I think somebody's going to send something with my name on it, other than a bill that I have to care about. And man, email is like that now. Just like, yeah, if I want a Bed Bath and Beyond coupon, that's where I'm going to go. But I'm not there.
I mean, I think that's, yeah, I think that's the thing for now, Gmail remains this thing that I'm so totally connected to as like this thing that just holds these past memories. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I could look up the number of times that I use the word dumbass and find out, or, you know, whatever it was, or, you know, and usually it's in a conversation with, I don't know how many, God, Richard, we talked daily, multiple times a day, just GChat.
That's the sort of the so part of the reason that the show came to be was because every once in a while you would just say, hey, who's on the Mount Rushmore of kickball players who play in jeans?
Sure.
And we would, or whatever it would happen to be. And we kind of just got the idea based off of that, like, hey, we do this a lot. It's kind of fun. Maybe other people would like to hear it too. And yeah, we like you said, Michael, it's still great that, or even our pizza club stuff, where we can go through and I can say, hey, what's the name of that pizza place that we went to that one time where, you know, Scott Jones got mad and went to the back to try and figure out what was going on because the pizza was taking too long. And invariably we can find it because it's now this repository of past information.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh, dear John, thank you for your message. Hillary and I had a great time at the launch. We are very proud of you and the entire crew, and a little jealous. We can't wait for you to get home so we can have a first-hand report. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we're having a lot of fun with your adventure. At a camp rally in Queens, I asked an 83-year-old woman what she thought of your trip. She replied that it seemed like a perfectly fine thing for a young man like you to do. I hope your last few hours go well. Give my best to the rest of the crew. Sincerely, Bill Clinton. Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, would you step out for a second, Jeff?
Yeah, I just went to get a glass of water. It's tall, refreshing glass of water. What's going? Oh my God!
Nothing is happening. Absolutely nothing happened, Jeff.
Oh, you didn't just hear the first email sent by an American president and it was sent from a Toshiba satellite laptop borrowed from somebody to John Glenn orbiting.
Is that what it was?
That was it. Yeah. The first email sent by a sitting president. I guess that might have been the second one because this first email was a test to see if the email even worked. But the first email was sent by Bill Clinton to John Glenn, who was up in the space shuttle or something like that. I think he was orbiting in the space shuttle.
Yeah.
Isn't that nutty?
That's wild.
But even as far back as the Carter presidential campaign, email was being used, but not by the president. And now we've got, so here's the truth is the president can absolutely say anything he wants and it will be picked up by every possible communication platform. Right. Today, now.
Except for Twitter.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Not only these being censored.
I love that people are constantly pointing out, a quick aside, that like he literally has a button that he could walk into like the communications room and just talk to the country at any time.
Yeah.
And has like, you know, that thing where he could text everybody in the country with like his emergency text system, and still doesn't do it because all he cares about is like literally is Twitter and how many. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. I just think that's so funny. And then it made me think, what if every tweet Trump had sent out had been an email? Then we could have just put him on, like, go straight to spam. Like, we could have done that so long ago. It would have been so amazingly awesome. Okay, dudes, we are at a halftime, and we're going to invite our audience to send us a message electronically. It's not an email, but it's your presence at our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram sites, and your communication. The subject line would be, hey, your podcast is awesome. I want to subscribe to it. And I want to tell all my friends about it. And I want you to talk about this topic that I had in mind. Or the message could be, hey, I want to be a guest on your podcast because it's so awesome. So yeah, so we would love to be electronically communicated to you through those mediums. And then you could also do us a solid, go back and download, rate, and review 249 other podcast episodes. This is your project for this year, to go down,
print them all out, put them in order, name your favorite 250 episodes.
Yeah. Wow, that would be amazing to go back and do that. I can't believe like Mark Maron has like 3,000 episodes or something like that. That's nutty. That's nutty. Okay, yeah. So hey, we're back, and Manfredi, what's your third?
My third choice is trying to get the tone right in an email, especially in the greetings and farewells. You know, it's one thing when it's like, you know, your boss directly, and you someone or a coworker that you work with for a long time, and you can just say, "Hey Tom, da 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 da. Thanks, Richard." But it's another thing when you're emailing somebody you don't know. And how do you start the email? Do you go dear their first name? Well, do you know them well enough to use their first name? Do you not? I mean, it's very, it's a holdover from, I guess, the days of writing letters. But I think the difference is that writing a letter was more of a formal process anyway. So using a dear sir or madam, dear Mr., dear Mrs., whatever it happened to be, that was more acceptable. But an email is less formal. So how do you address somebody, especially if it's somebody who maybe is a superior to you, or somebody who you don't know, and maybe it's your first time emailing them? Do you have to do a Mr., dear Mr., dear Mrs.? What if their first name is Chris? You don't know if that's a male or a female name. You may not know exactly who you're addressing.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with the end too. You know, thanks seems very informal.
Oh, you gotta slap regards on there.
Regards seems very formal. I tend to go with best or best regards.
Wow, best regards. Holy moly.
Yeah, so that's only for experienced emailers.
Yeah.
But getting that tone, just getting it right, it can feel like such an ordeal.
Yeah. I think also it is it changes depending on whether you are indeed a Nigerian spam scammer too, because at that point you have to start it, which you are. You have to start an email. Salutations of the day.
Well, we can start folding that into my third pick, which is the Nigerian phishing scam.
Sweet. Okay. Awesome.
Good.
Okay. Perfect. Well, I do want to say,
but
the idea that letter writing or somehow was kind of invigorated, that people have this pattern of letter writing as being an influence on email, which is kind of hilarious, because if somebody sent me a letter, like if I went to the mailbox and opened up a letter that said, "Hey Jeff, what's up?" that would freak my shit out. If that's all it was, I would lose my mind. I would wonder if the guy was out there with a sniper rifle ready to take me out. So sorry.
No, that's okay. Do you think there are like way too cool, like, you know, fictional characters that write emails in their own tone? Like, does like Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles write an email as if, like,
dude,
does he end it with cowabunga, or does is he sitting there? He's like, yeah, is everything like, hey Shredder, bro, what's what's the deal? Stop trying to hash our vibe, man. I wonder if like all these guys were like, yeah, sincerely, Spicoli sending an email. I just wonder if that it's like, if that was something that would even come into their world.
So the spammer.
Yeah. Well, I thought that was first of all, I thought that was a really nice choice by Richard, because it does, email is so strange in that it is everything. It is formal, it's informal, it is official. Sometimes it is, crazy. And like, the tone of like the Nigerian prince email phishing, I always think of like, who is the person that actually has ever fallen for it? And then you read about how it happens all the time. And just, I think there's almost a sense of, it's like it's kind of like the lottery is like the people that are playing the lottery. They think that they're generally going to win. They think that if they give, you know, money or information in advance, that something else is going to come back. I guess it's called the advanced fee scam, officially. And kind of this Nigerian prince aspect of it was, it kind of has some kind of racial undertones, but the idea that there's just like, there's this prince that just needs a little bit of money to get things started, then he can free up his $20 billion that he just wants to give away to you. And it's just like, I find it wild. I don't think, and maybe I have, and I just don't know it, fallen for like an email scam, but maybe I have. It seems, I think that all these email scams get to a point where they're just so obvious. Like there's no nuance to them. It's all just like nonsense.
You know, the one scam I think I might have fallen for was a Facebook scam, and having adopted a shelter pet as you did, Michael, or fostered one, and then having supported his health by paying for some medical expenses, and then asking your friends to help pay for some other medical expenses, that was very real. That happened in your life. But I gave money to somebody. She kept posting pictures of Kodo the Wonder Dog or something, and I sent her $50 or something for this dog. She had these pictures of this dog at different levels of his surgery, and I'll be damned if he didn't die after like seeing the chapters unfold. This dog passed within, I think, a month of the original post, asking for money for his surgery, asking for this, and then I think she just ran out of photos of this fake dog. That either she found the photos online, or I think she got to her last photo and said, well, shit, I guess I got to start over in another town with a new dog or something like that. But I was also going to say Richard, regarding your getting the tone right, I used to meet people via email in the corporate world and say, nice to meet you, or nice to meet you electronically at least, and then explain to them whatever agenda I had for the letter. I don't even say that. I don't qualify it anymore. I say nice to meet you, because that's how I may never meet them in person ever. So there's never going to be a real life IRL follow-up. So
they may actually, Jeff, they may actually be a Nigerian prince and you don't know it.
They might. So you were going to say there could be even some kind of tones of kind of racial politics or something involved in there.
Oh,
also.
Sure.
Maybe I mean, I move on from that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's just the thing that, I don't know why. I'm not quite sure why that, why Nigerian prince is the name that kind of stuck, why that was the one that seemed like, I don't know how the phishing scam people like fell into, this is the place, article. This is the country.
It's real. It's a real industry in the real place. And it's really there from what I've learned. It comes from there because it's real. And it's a cottage industry within the certain region, or was a decade ago when it kind of originated. Like, I think spam actually comes from certain places where they've kind of specialized in cloaking IP addresses or something like that. But sorry, you're about to move on from that to another point.
That's okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Now, of course, I've lost it, but that's all right. I think that email, or just the phishing aspect and email scams are these things that are just, having grown up within it, a little bit. I feel pretty wary. I like, the computer does so much work for you of just filtering out spam that nothing really gets through at this point. But I can't imagine or I don't really remember what the time was when like all you had to do was like sit there and question, oh God, should I open this up? I've kind of trained myself to not open anything up until I really 100% know who sent it to me and why. Mm-hmm. But that also goes to show I don't use personal email much anymore.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing with a letter. It seems like with mail, I've learned to quickly determine from looking at the envelope, is it from an actual friend of mine? Is it somebody pretending to be somebody I know? There are some things that you can kind of, your real credit card, when they send you a new one, is going to come in an envelope that looks a hell of a lot like those other offers of other credit cards. And how do you determine which one you open and which one you ignore and filter out? And I think that's threaded into people's inability to determine what's true on the web and in social media. And like every other confidence game, there's people preying on people's desire for something to be true. They want the grandma to have actually slam dunked on the goal, or they want elections that didn't go in their favor to be fraudulent. So it's amazing the confidence game and how it's evolved into electronic realms. Okay, all right, Manfredi, what's the final one?
All right, so you've written your email, and you know this is an important email. It's going out to your boss's boss and their boss and all these other people who are certainly higher up in the food chain than you are. And it's time to hit send. Okay, hit send. Hold on a second. Let me read this one more time. Okay, looks good. Wait a second. Should I hit send? It's that moment of panic that you have.
Yeah.
The act of actually hitting the send button. When you realize, as we talked about, once it's out there, it's out there. And so it's all of the things that we talked about, getting the tone right, making sure that there's no typos and errors on it. And it can induce panic in some people, myself included. I actually had to talk to my therapist about this because I was having such a hard time. It would take me 10 minutes to send an email because I'd have to reread it 7 or 8 times before I felt confident enough that I'd gotten everything right and wasn't going to make an ass of myself when I sent it because there was some typo or something weird in it. So yeah, that's my 4th one.
What have been the repercussions in the past?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I think I think it's more a psychological thing than anything else. I don't know that it's really based on I've screwed up in the past. I think it's just this idea that you could.
Do you think this is an offshoot of your journalistic background too? It's writing, it's professional communication that's going out, and it's telling story about the author.
Right. And I think it's partially probably because what I do is marketing now. And so why my strength in theory should be my writing, to your point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I screw something up in something that's written, there's a little bit of, what's going on here? So maybe it does add a little bit of pressure, but I know I talked to several people about this, and this is a very common form, something that can very commonly cause, I think everyone at some point has had an important email they needed to send and just hesitated a little bit before they clicked the button.
Yeah. I think too, there is an aspect of like, I've never been in charge of anybody. I've never been a boss. I've always been like, I hate to use the word underling, but like I've never had, I'm not in the C-suite. And people in different positions definitely read and write emails so differently. Like I'm like you, Richard, where I will write an email and reread it and make sure that I've covered any sort of possible question that could come up. I feel like I've answered their question, but I've also provided like the evidence of what had happened. Usually it's like a long email is because something got screwed up somewhere along the line. And I'm just kind of making sure that everything is understood why this didn't get delivered or what, X, Y, and Z. And then it depends on who you send it to. If they are a VP of whatever, they don't read the email. They read like the top line answer because they don't have time. And then they write back and it's just like, okay. And then you're just like, you've spent an hour trying to figure out what to say to this person and what to respond to whatever question. And then they're like a 1-word reply and it's like, yes. And you're like, oh, come on. I did all that work to get this back, to get sure as like the response. You're like, whatever.
I get sounds good all the time, and it's I wanted a yes or no. It's not even a yes or no. It's just sounds good.
Okay, great.
Okay,
That's
great. Richard, I think one thing you also do a really good job of for anybody who's been a victim of our marketing and posts for when new podcasts drop is writing through the machine, adding a ghost into the machine, giving it some kind of breath of life versus just this kind of like almost like something that a paralegal would would put together. And I think that's a real challenge too, is just giving it some mojo to it, so it just feels like somebody's communicated to in a humane way.
Right.
Not that it's there's got to be literature, but man, some of these people, like you haven't met your coworkers yet. You want them to know that you're a decent guy.
That I'm not an idiot. Yeah.
One thing I've noticed is that you can send out an email asking people for 2 or 3 deliverables or 1 deliverable, and you will get nothing from that person. But if you say attached is blank and you don't put the attachment, you will get an email right back from the busiest person in the world. You didn't put the attachment on. I don't see an attachment. Oops. Oh, you're down for shaming me, but not answering any of the questions that I have.
Oh, that's so funny.
Instantly. Your final choice, Michael Winfield.
Oh, my final choice is the series of, this is going to be very dated. I guess a lot of my stuff has been very dated. All of it's living in the past, but the series of like fake email inboxes that Grantland used to write back in like 2012, 2013, that would be like the email box of like LeBron James, or the email inbox of Roger Goodell, or any sort of like public, sports figure, fake email box that had like, it looked like Gmail, and maybe that's why I love it so much, with all the threaded conversations, or that would have like the G chats that they were all crafted they were all done in such a great way, with like little hidden search boxes for like kind of related things to that character's personality, and just the idea that all of these famous celebrities are all talking to each other, that they all have this this wonderful like email life of just nonsense. And it made me feel somewhat connected to these people in that way. Just every day was like this, just these long email conversations, but just that they were just so expertly written and crafted, whether it was one for like LeBron James or I don't know. And it just, I find them very delightful and very like specific to a time and era that I think this has been a very nostalgic episode for me, because of how I spent that time.
Wow, that's really fascinating. That I've never heard of Grantland, so now I'm just clicking on it, and is it a sports blog? Is it kind of what it is? Magazine?
Yeah, it was there's a a writer named, I guess he used to be a writer named Bill Simmons, who's very famous in like the podcast world now. And he had like a website through ESPN called Grantland. And I can't quite remember why it was called Grantland, but it's now defunct because he and ESPN broke up a number of years ago, and he went off to do his own website called The Ringer. But Grantland was like, he'd bring in a lot of great writers, and they'd have a lot of just like sports content, but also, did they also, Richard, do you remember, did they also do kind of lifestyle stuff too? Or was it mostly just sports?
No, they did. Remember Stephen Hayden with all of his insufferable music takes?
Yes. Okay. I couldn't remember if he was on Grantland too, but
Yeah, he was Grantland.
basically it was just like, I wouldn't quite call it, it wasn't blogs, but they were just like, you know, written pieces and funny things. Like it's basically like the proto The Ringer is now. Pop culture takes, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, these were these things that I think that were just so well done. And I think that they really captured a moment for that, whoever that was on that specific time frame or year or month. And just reading through them, go look for like the fake inboxes for in Grantland. You'll find some really great things.
Cool. That's a fun choice. You know, that fake email made me nostalgic for something that has come back a little bit in fits and starts, but the homestarrunner.com and the SB emails, the strong bad emails that were a favorite of mine for quite some time. So those are always kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, dudes. So, wow, this has been, Michael, so much nostalgia, so much emotion coming through there. You know, I'm going to do something unprecedented. Richard, you and I exist so much in this corporate world. We're corporate guys. And I think we have to work as kind of people who represent ourselves with corporate type of writing. Michael, I know you do that too.
Not that much, but I yeah,
not that much.
Thanks for the bone.
Okay. Guess what? For the 250th episode, is going to go down in history as a sweep, a Winfield sweep. I hate to, Richard, I love you.
I'm writing an angry email right now.
Strongly worded.
Strongly worded. I don't know who I'm sending it to. I'm just gonna send it to everybody.
And then call us all afterwards. Hey,
did you get the email?
Did you get the email? Mount Rushmore is going to be a Winfield sweep. It's going to be because you got the movies, the Gaff Squad, the Keen-Eyed Gaff Squad, taking Ethan Hunt to task for using a bogus user interface in Mission Impossible. The Gmail, so nostalgic, the personal nostalgia of looking back on your all the years you wasted in kickball through, and it's chronicled in your Gmail. And then going global and cultural with the originations of some kind of scams coming from email. And then literary with the Grantland stories that give us some insight, or fake insight at least, into how celebrities email. So Winfield sweep.
All right.
I just want you guys to know I'm actually
to accept it.
It's not going to be 2 and 2 every time this year. It's going to be different. This is going to be a different next 250 episodes. It's going to be different.
Strap in, Michael.
Yeah. Hey, loins.
I'm riding a 10-point high over you right now, so I feel pretty good. And you won, insurmountable.
And you won last season. We should congratulate you for that. Pulled away late. It was tied with like 3 episodes to go, and I think you made a late push. So you're on a hot streak right now.
Wow. I had a big 3-pointer from the wing and I was fouled, and the refs had money on me, basically. Yeah.
Right.
I think, Richard, your only problem is that I can relate to you. That's the downfall.
Oh, I can fix that. I can make myself less relatable. That's not a problem.
All right, this has been the Mount Rushmore of email, our 250th episode. If you've been a supporter of the podcast this far, we thank you. If you're a new person to this podcast, we invite you to stay with us, and we would love to share some time with you and hopefully talk about something you're interested in. This has been the Mount Rushmore of email. As always, I'm Jeff.
I'm Richard.
I'm Michael.
Cool.